Hey everyone, I just wanted to quickly go over the list that I ran over the past 2 weeks. I ran this at the Carta Magica tournament and I went undefeated. Technically, I went 6-0-1 and I got second place. And I ran it this past weekend and I went undefeated again. I went 5-0 and then I split first place with another opponent. I did run a yellow version during the tournament. I would say it's more like a speed yellow. My main concern was just winning the mirror match. The Carta Magica on Sunday, they did have the exclusions, so there were no promos, no Pulsemon, and no dash packs or the promo packs that had like the Palmon, etc. So my main concern was just winning the mirror match for that tournament. So I'll just quickly go over what I played and the reasons why I chose what I did. Alrighty. So for my level 2s, I opted for 4 Upamon and 1 Koromon. So I opted for the draw power and then the Koromon. Just when games get extended, I wanted to have that 5th baby as an option. For the rookies, I have 4 Bushy. The purpose of my deck is to essentially get everything on the board as quickly as possible and outpace my opponent. So 4 Bushy Agumon is key in that. I also do 4 of these Recovery Salamon. So while you're constantly getting rid of your security and you're speeding up into your Wargrey, etc., and using the Wargrey's attack, which takes the security away, you want to have ways to recover. So I opted for here. And I do 4 Lotmon. This is probably one of my favorite cards in the deck. Not only does it get you closer to that 3 security mark, it also gives you draw power, gives you board presence early in the game, and it kind of outpaces your opponent if they choose to stay in the breeding area longer. You're having presence on the board. And because there is no option for the Pulsemon in the tournament, I just opted for the Vanilla Salamon. They're cheap to drop. If your opponent gives you 3 memory, you can drop 2 into 1 cost Pidomon, and then go into an Angelwoman, so you have the option. And then I chose to do 1 Lucamon. So on Dex Run 2, I chose to do 1 just because I didn't want to see it in my starting hand. It was my first time running this variant of the deck, so I wanted to have the option to have the Lucamon if I got there. You're going to see cards throughout the list that are unsleeved. This is the exact 50 that I ran. The unsleeved cards are the ones that I took out for the tournament that I played in yesterday. Okay, so for level 4s, I do Torpedo, pretty standard. The 1 Evos, you're trying to turbo. Same with Tarui. And I keep the Unimon. It's a good number, so when you Blinding Ray, or if your opponent gives you enough memory, the 5 is like the perfect number to drop down, so you can drop a blocker and have an additional move. So this is pretty standard in most yellow decks. For the level 5s, this is the main level 5 that you want on the field, so Angelwoman, obviously with the effect. So if you're turboing into a deck and you get 2 attacks, you want to be able to drop down as many level 3s as possible. So Angelwoman into the Bushy, Angelwoman into the Lotmon, or even late game Angelwoman into a Salamon is a good play. I did 3 Angelwoman for this tournament. My list was so fast, so I wanted to make sure that I had as much recovery as possible, and I didn't kind of beat myself. So the 3-1 was just kind of a precaution, just because of the way the deck ran. And for this tournament, I opted for the Rise Gray. Rise Gray was kind of a meta call, so I wanted to keep my deck as consistent as possible. So not only does he allow you to play TK mid-game so you don't get outpaced by your opponent, but he also has the Inherited that does the 2K to your opponent. So I knew that there's going to be a vast majority of yellow decks, so yellow being Slash and Wargrey. And if you're swinging with a Wargrey with a Rise Gray under him, he's swinging for 8K, which is enough to kill Slash. So I like that number a lot, and I knew that there's going to be a lot of mirrors in this tournament, so that's why I opted for the Rise. For the level 6s, I did 3 Wargrey, and I did 3 of the Magna. The number I didn't really like the number. It worked out pretty fine. So you get the recovery aspects with the Magna, and they both kind of sync well with the Angelwoman. So if you have an Angelwoman under either one of these, you're dropping 2 level 3s, as long as security meets the requirements. So the 6 was good. You'll find that I changed it in the tournament that I was in yesterday, but the 6 is fine for the tournament last week. And for my level 7s, I just did 3 of the Volder. Not much to say. If you're playing this deck, you want to be able to cap your turn with the Boulder Arms. 3 seemed like it was a little much. I always wanted to have the Wargrey out longer, and then drawing in this early game wasn't the best thing to see. If you ever had 2 Boulder in your hand at any point in the game, you're not a happy camper. And to cap off, I did 3 TK and 3 Blinding Ray. Normally in my yellow decks, I run 4 TK as a staple, just because I like the max consistency. But essentially, I was just opting to take out 1 TK for a Blinding Ray, and it just helps you early game, or helps you late game, helps you mid game, and an all-around perfect card. So a 3 and 3, I think, is a good balance here. So this is what I ran throughout the tournament. I played mostly mirror match. I think I only dropped 1 single mirror match game to a yellow, and it was just because, you know, variance. This deck does dead draw at certain times. I had to think that my starting hand was a Valderam and a Lucimon, which is obviously just not ideal. And the only draw I had was to a security deck round 6. Security decks way to beat yellow is to deck it out. So they can't deck it out. Generally, the time's going to run out, and it's just going to be a draw regardless. So whether he was going to win or I was going to lose, the 45 minutes hit a lot faster. But I did go 6-0-1. I got second place, and unfortunately, second place did not get you anything more than top 4 did at that particular tournament. But this is kind of what I ran. And then I played in a local tournament yesterday. It was 6 rounds, and I was undefeated for the first 5. And then in the last round, the kid and I both chose to just draw, because it was going to be first place, second place regardless, and we just split the prizes. Running yellow, anything past 5 matches is kind of drains you a little bit, so yeah, that's kind of what we did. So for the tournament, the changes that I made from the list that I played last Sunday was, for starters, with the babies. So now that everything was legal and more yellow lists were being posted, the build kind of changed a bit. So I took off the Upamons, and then I opted for 4 Korra. The -1 is actually more relevant in the mirror match now than it was last week, where everybody was opting for more slash. But now everybody's going very heavy Wargreymon, and everybody's playing more of the Magnadramon and less of the slash. So that 1K is really helpful in that matchup. Everything else stayed the same. The only other thing I did was I opted to take out the Lucimon. The Lucimon is cool and all, but to me it just seems inconsistent. So I just wanted to have another actual rookie that has the same effect, the drop, with the Angelman, the Magnadramon. So you still get the drop, you still get the benefit. The only other added benefit is it's another rookie in your hand turn 1. So less dead draws, you know, helps you turbo quicker. The only thing I would like to do is put 3 Pulsemon as opposed to the 3 Sally. Unfortunately, I don't have 3, so I just chose to go with the vanilla rookies for this one. It worked out perfectly fine. There were games where I actually had to switch to like a yellow rookie rush variant, because I could just afford to drop, you know, 3 or 4 rookies in a turn. So this, generally yellow decks don't run 15 rookies, but this number actually worked really, really well. The level 4 stayed the same, nothing changed for that. And the level 5s, I chose to take out 1 of the recovery and 2 of the rises. The rises were nice for what the purpose was for during the Carta Magica tournament, but now that everybody's running more of a heavy line of the Wargrey, I wanted to make sure that I was able to counter that quickly. So I opted for 3 of the Wargrowl. So the reason why I did the Wargrowl is when you are turboing into a Wargrey, even if your opponent outpaces you in a game and you have a dead draw, you have the counter for it. So you can come up, as long as you have a Koromon under, you can Wargrowl, Digiburst for 4K, pop up into a Wargrey, you can swing effect, do 6K to him, and when you attack with the Koromon, equals 11K. So not only are you hitting the security, you're getting all the effects of your Wargreymon. If you go down to 3, you're swinging for 12K, so the only thing that they can kill you with in this security would be a Valder Arms, and you're also killing a Wargrey just by negging DP. So all in all, I would say now the Wargrowlmon is more relevant. It's probably the preferred level 5 in the matchup. And the last change I made was I dropped one of the Chaos for the additional 4th of the War. And this is just for consistency. I wanted to see it more. I wanted to see him more within the first 3 or 4 turns than I wanted to see the Balder. Generally, if this deck runs properly, you should outpace your opponent quick enough so that you won't need the Balder. If you ever get into a stalemate with the yellow deck, the Balder's good to have. Or if you're playing against a Mega Zoo, it's good to have to cap off. And the 14k and 15 with the Wargrel under him is good. But generally, seeing the Wargreymon is a better card. So this is what I ran. I plan to make a few more changes to it. Most likely going to be testing out the Pulsemon more. But the list is pretty solid. And I think I'm probably going to run something close to it throughout the rest of the matches. Same thing with the other Bandai tournaments coming up next month. But this is what I ran. Thanks everybody for watching and have a good one. Bye.